Hello and welcome to the Bits with the Fits container basic demo. So in this demo, we're going to use Docker on Linux. It's a basic demo, but we're going to pull an image from the Docker registry to the local machine. We're going to then use the image to provision some web services and show how easy it is to work with containers both in a live and development environment. So the first thing I'm going to do is head over to my command prompt, my Docker prompt. This is remotely connected into a Linux host which is running Docker. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to pull an Nginx image down. So if I take a look at my Docker images, so Docker images, you can see I don't have an Nginx server at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this. I'm going to run it in detached mode. I'm going to map the ports to 8080, and I'm going to base it on Nginx. So what you can see here is it hasn't been able to find the Nginx web server locally, and it is pulling that down straight away. This is going out across the internet looking for the Nginx server and is downloading it. Ace. Okay, so now that this is downloaded, we should be able to use a web browser to browse over to my Docker host and receive a welcome to Nginx message. Okay, so this message is being presented by the container which is running inside the Docker host itself. So what I would like to do next is actually enter into the Nginx server to take a look at the configuration of this web server. It's obviously up and running, hence the web page. But we would like to customize it for some live system. So we're going to run the docker exec command, and we want it to be an interactive one. And we're going to connect into this container with the bash program. Okay, so now we are within the container itself. What I would like to do is head over to the Nginx config, which is here, and take a look at the default config file. So the default config file in Nginx shows you where the web files are stored. So in this case, /usr/nginx.html. Okay, so exiting out of the container itself, and I am now back on the host. So this is all well and good, but it doesn't really suit a purpose for running in a live system or doing any development. So what we're going to do is we're going to mount some locally stored files on the host. Now these locally stored files could be stored on a NAS share. They could be stored just on the host itself, or storing data that containers will use. So in this case, we have a web demo directory, and in here we've got two systems, a development and a live system. And all I'm going to do is mount the live system into a container. So I'm going to use the same docker run command. I'm going to detach it, and then I'm going to specify the port. So I want my port to be 81 on a local host. I want it to be port 80 within the container, and then I want to specify the volume that I would like to use. So in this case, I would like to use web demo /live system, and I want that to go into the path which is usr/share/nginx/html. So this is saying the files that are stored in live system in this location, map them within the container to this location, and this location is here. This is the file share, and we're going to use again the container image based on Nginx, because that's the web server that we'd like to use. So we'll run that, and now using docker ps, we can see that there are now 2 containers running, one which is using port 81, one which is using port 80. So port 81 is our live system. So this is great. We've just been able to use some files stored locally on the machine in webdemo/live system, and we've been able to share them straight out as a web server using Nginx, just mounting them up. So that's great. Where this comes in really useful is with development. What we're able to do is we're able to fire up a Docker container straight away using just a different set of files. So the Nginx image doesn't change, the base image doesn't change. All that we're doing is we're specifying the runtime parameters that we'd like to use. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to run exactly the same command earlier on. We're just going to change 81 to 82 because we want to access on port 82. I'm going to change live system to dev system. Again, we're mapping up to exactly the same place using Nginx. And now you can see I have 3 containers running. The first one, the live system, and now the dev system. So using the dev system, what we can do is we can access these files straight away. Live system, dev system. And all that I've done is I've just specified the runtime parameters of the container at runtime.